Yeah, so hi, I'm Carrie, and I have two children, Amber, who's just turned 8, and Ollie, who's just turned 3. And I also work as a co-teacher in a school nursery setting as well with 3 and 4-year-olds. I first became a 50 Things enthusiast and found out about the 50 Things whilst I was on maternity leave after just having Ollie. And I thought it was a fantastic free resource to use with ideas for the whole family. I was finding at the time as well that a lot of the baby classes and the things I'd taken Amber to when she was a baby, they weren't available, or they weren't as varied, or they didn't work on the days that suited me when Ollie was a baby. And I think there would been a lot of budget cuts, funding cuts, and the children's centres in my local area, some of them had actually been closed as well. So I'm finding it really difficult to find things to go out and do with the new baby. So 50 Things definitely came along at the right time for us. And the thing that was great about it was that it was whole family ideas. So it wasn't just me taking the new baby to a class. Amber could be part of it as well. And the ideas on it they're so simple, they're so easy to use. And it just meant that I could spend quality time with Amber at the same time as having a new baby as well. I'm going to try and share my screen, but let's see how that works. It took me a while to get in because I just want to show some of the photos that I've got of Amber and Ollie as well. So I don't know if you can all see it. So I just want to talk a little bit about why 50 Things was important to me, really. So from working in early years as well as being a parent, I can see firsthand how social disadvantage can affect children's development. And I have a lot of children who come into my setting who haven't had a lot of early experiences in their life. And obviously with not being able to take Ollie to all these baby classes, I was really worried that Ollie wouldn't have as many early experiences as that I'd been able to share when Amber was a baby. I really love about the 50 Things on the app that you can have a look at the why section. Or if you go into the activities, there's a section that tells you why you should be doing these activities. So there's a lot of things out there, a lot of different campaigns, a lot of different projects that tell you what you should be doing with your baby. You should be doing this, you should be doing that, but I don't think all of them necessarily say why. So if you didn't come from an educational background, and maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't, would you know that allowing your child to jump in the muddiest puddle that they could find, it's not just about them having fun, it's also helping them and encourage them to think in a scientific way, so thinking about the speed, the height, the depth. And that's what really stood out for me about the 50 Things. It fits in so naturally with the early years curriculum that I work in. And I think, although I was worried about Ollie not having as many of those early experiences that I'd been able to share with Amber, actually having the 50 Things resource to hand has probably increased it, because it's perfect for doing as a whole family. So it's not just mum and baby at a class. It can be done at any time of the day. And it's inclusive for all ages and stages of development, which is highlighted on the app as well. Or it can be adapted to be so. So although it is 50 Things to do before you're 5, Amber's now 8 and she's still an avid user of 50 Things to do before you're 5. So I hope you can see my screen because I've got some photographs here. So Amber was here. She was 5 at the time. Ollie was just a couple of weeks old. So it's the first time at the park on a roundabout. We've got the first time we went to the library together as a family sharing books, the first walk along the canal and hearing and feeding the ducks. And then there's the picture here in the snow. So I think this really highlights how the 50 Things can be adapted for children of all ages. So Amber is a 5-year-old here. She's had her experience of the snow by rolling in it, jumping in it, making snow angels, throwing snowballs, building a snowman. And Ollie, I don't think he was more than 2 weeks old here, so he was wrapped up nice and warm in the pram, but he still had that experience of the snow. He still felt the cold air on his cheek. He heard us talking about it, saw it falling from the sky when he was looking up. And obviously their experiences this time were very, very different, Amber being 5 and Ollie only a couple of weeks old. But I do think that the more children experience an activity, the deeper their understanding of it is. So obviously Ollie probably doesn't remember his first experience of snow here, but then a few weeks ago he was the one that was rolling snowballs, making snowmen and jumping around in it, which is appropriate for his age now. And he's had those experiences time and time again that help him to understand what snow is and what that means to him and what that experience is for him. And I do think as well that 50 Things has really helped Amber and Ollie to bond. There is a big age gap between them. There's 5 years between them. And obviously they bicker like all siblings do. But he has learned so much from his older sister, from the way she's taken 50 Things on board, to copying how she goes about doing a 50 Things activity, listening to what she's saying as she's doing it, playing alongside her and just exploring the 50 Things together. And I do think that their shared experiences of using the 50 Things rather than having separate activities for both of them has really brought them close. And another thing that I really loved about the 50 Things was that it's localized to where children live. So coming from a professional perspective again, of working in early years, there's a lot of emphasis placed on how children understand the world that they live in and how they make sense of that. And that's what I think is great about the 50 Things concept. So for us, it's local to the area of Bradford. And I think that helping children make those links in their local area, seeing what their local area has to offer, what it looks like, really helps them with then their development in moving forward and understanding the world around them. If they don't understand the place that they live, how can we as adults and educators expect them to have a further understanding of the world? So I'm just going to move to my next slide about what's worked really well for us as family. So first of all, the app I find really, really beneficial. It's user friendly. All the activities are right there to hand when you open up the screen. And then I really love the memories section where you can save photographs that you've done during an experience. And Amber and Ollie really love to look back on those. And there's times like they look back on photos from when Ollie was a baby, so 3 years ago now, and they remember what they've done. They can talk about it. And again, I think that further deepens their understanding of whichever experience it was that they've chosen to look at. Another thing about the app where it breaks down the how and the why you should be doing each activity, that's always the thing I recommend to other parents, is to have a look at that part. Why are you doing this activity with your child? What's the benefit for them? How will it impact on their development? And I find the vocabulary section really useful as well, because it's so clearly broken down into the different ages and stages. So it suggests what kind of keywords you can use with a baby, then what you can use as your baby turns into a toddler and then moves towards becoming the age of 5. And I think I'm going to talk about as well, I don't know if you can see here in this top picture, there's a jar that Amber made. This is something that I use all the time. So she's put number 1 to 50 inside this jar. One for each of the 50 things, and it's a great tool for when, particularly now we're back in lockdown and we can feel a bit fed up and a bit down, a bit unmotivated. We want to do something but we're not quite sure what. We get Amber's jar out and we reach in, we pick a number out, and providing that we can do so with the new guidelines, we go ahead and we complete that activity as a whole family. And that's something that Amber's created that has nothing to do with me. She brings it along to all the 50 Things events that we do together. And I also use it in my setting as well. So it's a really useful tool for using with the children and the families there. They pick a number out, they take it away, and that's the activity that they go ahead and complete over the weekend. Sorry, I've lost my place. And it's really it's made us as adults, and me and my husband, have a new way of thinking about what we constitute to be a great day out, really. It's made us think more local, and we as adults have discovered things in Bradford that we never knew were there, really. We found an amazing wooden natural obstacle course in the middle of Heaton Woods that is a place that we probably would never have discovered without the 50 Things app, because we really took an interest in woodland wandering, so we looked on that part of the app, and there's a great link to find local woodland near you, and that Heaton Woods popped up. So we found many great places around Bradford, and it's really made us evaluate what we constitute to be a great day out. We spend much more quality time together because we're not spending long journeys in the car waiting to get somewhere. We spend less money. And yeah, I think it's just really made us have a new way of thinking what we want to do to be able to spend quality time together. And for us, sorry, I'm just trying to move my slide along. Oh, I moved too fast, sorry. Lockdown, I really think for me personally, 50 Things really came into its own during the last lockdown and in the new one that we're in now. So I was busy trying to work from home full time, homeschool a 7-year-old, potty train a very reluctant to be potty trained 2-year-old, and it definitely wasn't easy. Trying to keep them both simultaneously entertained when there's such a big age gap between them was a challenge. And I found the 50 Things resource a lifeline, if I'm being honest. It was brilliant. We were never short of ideas that we could try time and time again. We became more creative with the ideas because we were repeating them over and over again. We were adapting them to suit Amber and Ollie, and for us, we actually used it as a tool for home learning. So yes, Amber had her maths and English and other lessons set, but more often than not, we followed the 50 Things for our home learning and lockdown journey. And I think we were all, as a whole family, learning new things, so not just the children. You can see in one of these pictures here was our traveling to Mexico day. So Amber and Ollie have face painted us on a Day of the Dead theme. We learnt lots of interesting facts about Mexico. So we were just being creative and thinking outside the box, doing things slightly different each time we completed an activity, and mostly having lots of fun. We tended to take the 50 Things outdoors, explored what was on our doorstep because we couldn't go far. And I think during the lockdown, it really hit home for me how much Ollie's speech and language development and understanding of his environment had come on. And I do think that is a hugely down to the 50 Things activities and the repetition and the time that we were able to spend doing these activities. So we were walking through the woods one day, and it was the same woods that we took our daily walk in every single day. And I mentioned the river, and Ollie looked up at me. He was 2 at the time, and he said, "Mummy, this is not a river. This is a stream. You've told me a stream is smaller than the river, and this runs into the river." And that came from a 2-year-old. So the repetition of the woodland wandering activity had the things he'd seen and heard in his environment, the things he'd heard us talk about in the environment had clearly sunk in for him. And I think that's the beauty of the 50 Things. Children learn more and more each time that they repeat an activity. So that's one thing I always recommend to anyone who looks at the 50 Things. And I always say, please don't use it as a checklist. And once you've done an activity, think you don't need to go back to it, because it's going back to it and it's that repetition that really supports children's development and communication skills. And I think during the lockdown, we would have been much worse off without this fabulous resource to hand. And whilst I'm so grateful for all the family time that we were able to share together, being creative and thinking outside the box on our own, it was a challenge, and it was great to have a bank of ideas readily available for us during that difficult time. I was going to talk a little bit about 50 Things as a professional, but I'm very aware of how close to my time limit I am. So if anyone does have any questions about how I implement 50 Things at my setting, then please ask them in the chat and we can follow up on that. But I just want to talk about what impact and benefits of the 50 Things has had for us as a family. So the most important thing is that it's fun, it's low cost. No matter how many times you repeat an activity, there's a new adventure, a new challenge each time. Personally, what we love is how much of the other 50 Things link so naturally together. So our favourite activity is woodland wandering, but it links in so naturally with things like water feature, building dens, home from home, trip trap over the bridge, mini beast and bug hunting. I could go on. It's amazing what experiences children can have just from completing one of the 50 Things activities. Sorry, I've lost my notes again. And I think as well, speaking from a parent's perspective and thinking about being in a parent's head, an adult's head, going outside and exploring the outdoors, it's not just great for the children. Yes, it's brilliant the children are learning, but it also has a positive impact on our mood. And I know that everyone's feeling very fed up and a bit trapped at the moment because we're back in a lockdown, and it's easy with the dark mornings, the dark nights. It's easy to get sucked into that trap of feeling unmotivated and not positive. And I definitely see the impact that getting outside into the woods, building dens, getting some fresh air, some exercise, and trying to complete as many 50 things as we can in that time, it does have a positive impact on not just Amber and Ollie, but on mine and my husband's mental well-being. We come back, we feel we've cleared our head, we feel much more positive, we come back more focused, motivated, and I definitely think that it's helped us as a whole family. It's not just for the children as well. The biggest impact for us by far has been Ollie's amazing speech and vocabulary and his understanding. Everyone who meets him has commented on it, and they can't believe that he's just turned 3. And I do genuinely feel that a huge part of that has been because we've been able to access the 50 Things tool for him. He's had all these amazing experiences, which actually haven't cost very much money. They've included the whole family. We've had quality time as a family, and he's just gained so much experience from them, learning from his older sister, using the vocabulary section on the app, the why section on the app. It's so clearly broken down. And for us, you can see where you can take it next as well. So when he was at that toddler stage, I always looked at the next part and thought, okay, so he's understanding that now. Where can I take it next for him to help him develop further? And I just think it's amazing to have such a bank of ideas readily available rather than trying to think off the top of your head all the time. It's impossible. So it's great to have them there, and you can repeat them, you can change them, you can adapt them. And I recommend 50 Things to anybody that I meet, anyone that I see. I could talk about it all day, but you're probably bored of hearing from me now, so I won't talk about it anymore. But I'm really pleased that the project's now getting national recognition, because it means that so many more families are going to benefit from just the simplicity, but the effective activities that 50 Things has got to offer. So I'm really pleased that it's gaining that recognition now. And I've just got a slide here with just a few tips. So like I've said, repeat the activities, have a new adventure each time. If you can, the jar of ideas that Amber set up was amazing. Getting in a child's perspective, because that, as Amber once told me, sometimes a grown-up's ideas are rubbish and boring. That was at an event that we were due to hold, and Amber just rubbished all my ideas and said that it was boring. She changed it all up, and it was much more engaging for the children and the families who took part. So if you do have a child to hand, definitely use their input and their perspective. Looking at the vocabulary and why section on the app, I've said that so many times now. That is the one thing that I always say to parents, and take the 50 Things outdoors. That's other tips. I have left my Instagram on there as well if anyone does want to follow Amber and Ollie's 50 Things journey.
And terrible jaws. I have terrible teeth. And terrible teeth.
Good mixing. Mix. Mama, bubble. Wow. Bubble. Mix.
Come on, pie. Big
Then what happened?
A big brown bear.
Tell Molly.
Big brown mouse.
Wow, that was a big jump.
Ooh. Shall we do something? Oh, we could splash. Put our hand in. We're mixing.